I'm going to ask you to bear with me for a moment. I'm going to ask you to go with me on a journey for just a second. Because I, for this segment, am going to still believe that the Suns have playoff chances. And we haven't done this in a little bit. I haven't actually checked recently. We've given up. We had a segment here on this show where I told you what the playoff chances were, the playoff probabilities were for the Phoenix Suns. They got so bad, I just stopped doing it. Like, we just stopped altogether. I'm going to go back to it right now just to see where it's at. Phoenix Suns have a 0.9% playoff probability odds, according to the playoff probability report over at Basketball Reference. 0.9. Their projected finish this year is 36 and the numbers here say 36.3 wins, 45.7 losses. They went very, very specific with their numbers here, having them finishing 11th. So just outside of Dallas and Sacramento. They have Sacramento finishing at 41 and 41. But just for a brief moment, we're gonna talk about that 0.9% chance, okay? If they are going to stay relevant, if that 0.9% is going to grow, if they are going to somehow stay in this, they're going to need to pull off some magic tricks. Let's just call them what they are. They're going to need to surprise us. They're going to need to beat teams we don't expect them to beat. Now, I don't know how many teams I would put on the list that I expect the Suns to beat right now. You just lost to Toronto over the weekend. San Antonio before that. Barely beat Chicago. I've watched you lose to teams you have no business losing to. You play the Wizards too close, the Nets too close. I don't know how long the list of teams would be that you should beat and beat going away. I don't know how many teams would be on that list. But you're going to have to surprise us. You're going to have to beat Memphis. You're going to have to beat Dallas. You're going to have to beat the Lakers, the Clippers, the Timberwolves. You're going to have some surprises along the way. There are too many games left against good basketball teams. We have said this from the get-go. The magic number is 41. You have to get to 500. They're at 27 right now. That means they have to win 14 games the rest of the way. There are too many games against good playoff top-tier basketball teams. They're going to have to win some of those games. So surprises are going to have to be a part of this. Magic tricks are going to have to be a part of this. There are going to be times where we go into a game and we say the Suns have no chance of winning. And they win. Producer Corey, tonight, we've talked a couple of times here on the show. I've got softball tonight. The Suns play at 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Softball starts at 6 o'clock. So I will be laser focused in on coaching the girls tonight. I will not be paying attention to the Suns game. I will check in on it afterwards.
For sure.
Do we think that by the time I get home, when I get home, is the game going to be competitive enough? In general, the game might be over. We normally get done with practice around 8:30.
Yeah.
The Suns are supposed to tip at 6 tonight. Basketball games never start on time. They always start about 15 minutes later. So probably 6:15, 6:20 is when they'll actually put the ball in the air. Basketball games on average are about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's going to be close. Mm-hmm. When I get home and I fire up the DVR to watch the basketball game,
yes,
is it going to be worth it?
No.
Or is it going to be a blowout to where I can say, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah, I think this is a check your phone for the total.
So tonight's going to be an I'm good night. Tonight's going to be I've got more important things to do.
You got family.
I've got family. I'll keep tabs on it while we're at practice. But your guess, and I don't disagree with you, is that when I get home, the DVR, we can just hit erase.
Yeah, the only numbers you probably need to keep track of is if you're doing any sort of sports betting.
That's right. If my bets win tonight, not betting on the Suns tonight in any capacity. They've played this team twice already this year. They lost to Memphis back on December 31st, 117-112 at home. You'll remember that game because I screamed and almost punched the monitor here in the studio the next day. That was the game that they didn't have, Memphis did, Ja Morant or Zach Edey. Suns had every right to win that basketball game going away. Memphis didn't have Ja Morant. They didn't have Zach Edey. Didn't have their leading scorer. Didn't have one of their top rebounders. They were without the guys that make their team go, and you still lost by 5 at home. So that was back on December 31st. Then, right before the All-Star break, they lost to them 119-112 at home on February 11th. was a better effort, but they still lost. 2 games against this team this year, 2 losses. So we're asking, where are the magic tricks going to come from? Where are the surprises going to come from if this team is going to find the 14 wins they need to have the rest of the way? You'd like to think that their next 2 against New Orleans after this one can help us make that number go down from 14 to 12. But they've got to find those other 12. They've got Toronto and Chicago on their schedule. I watched you beat Chicago, not beat Toronto. So maybe again, the math starts to not add up here, meaning they're going to have to surprise. They're going to have to beat a Denver. They're going to have to go into Dallas and find a way to steal a basketball game. That stretch where they're against Minnesota, Boston, New York, Golden State, they have to surprise us somewhere. They have to do something that they haven't done at all through 57 games. That's it. That's the only way they get out of this. That's the only way they sneak into a play-in spot. They somehow surprise us. And Sacramento, who has the second hardest schedule the rest of the way in the NBA, also struggles, and struggles worse than the Suns struggle. And the 2 games that the Suns play against Sacramento, they sweep. That's it. There's your math. You either surprise a bunch, or the 2 games you play against Sacramento, you beat them. You close the 2-game gap, and you play 1 game better than Sacramento the rest of the way. That's it. There's your recipe. You either start surprising us, or you beat Sacramento the 2 times you play them, you steal 1 game to give yourself a little bit of a cushion, and you play the same as the Kings the rest of the way. That's it. That's how the Suns make the play-in tournament. And then they're probably a very quick exit in that play-in tournament. Is tonight going to be one of those surprises for the Phoenix Suns? Could it be one of the magic tricks that they pull out of their hat? Goes back to a question I asked in hour number 1 of the program. Is there anybody on this team that is ready to step up? Is there anybody on this team that understands? Don't feel sorry for yourself. This season has not been what you wanted it to be. You're still Kevin Durant. You're still Devin Booker. You're still Bradley Beal. You didn't forget how to play basketball. You've been terrible defensively. We got it. We've seen it. Watch these games. You are still 3 of the most talented players in the NBA. Can you act like it? Can you show it? Can you just will and effort go a long way in sports? The will and your effort level can sometimes hide deficiencies that you have as a basketball team. I question the will and the effort of this team at times. That is a bad place to be. Can you show me that effort tonight? Can you show me your willingness to do the little extra stuff? The willingness to push that much harder in the 3rd and 4th quarters. That's it. You show a better effort. You show the will, the want, that you want to make this 8-game stretch count, that you want to keep this team relevant. You can show that tonight. If you bring an effort and the willingness and the want and the drive to the arena tonight, you can beat Memphis in Memphis. You can do it. You've played them twice this year. You lost by 5 and you lost by 7. You've kept these games relatively close. And you've got 3 of the best basketball players on the planet. It is a willingness, it is a want, it is a desire, it is an effort thing. Will somebody step up and provide that effort, provide that willingness, provide that desire, and use that energy and feed it to the rest of the team? Will somebody answer that call tonight? That's how they're going to pull these surprises off. They're going to want it more than the other team on that given night. They're going to play these final 20-some-odd games like they're all playoff intensity. Toronto, Chicago over the weekend, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it against San Antonio coming out of the All-Star break when you should feel it. I didn't feel it. So we'll just continue to ask the question until either they show it or they just run out of time. Will tonight be the night that they show up with that playoff intensity? Is tonight the night they show up with it is a win or go home attitude? We don't have wiggle room anymore, so we're going to bring it every single night for 48 minutes. Is tonight going to be that night? If not, okay. We'll just move on to the next day, the next game, and we'll ask the same questions when they play New Orleans later on this week. That's how they're going to pull these surprises off. That's how they're going to pull off these magic tricks to stay in this. That's how they're going to make it to those 2 games against Sacramento that they play, one that is the last game of the regular season, that's how they're going to matter. That's how they're going to potentially be make or break this team surprising us and making the play-in tournament. So far, what we've seen, that effort's not going to show up tonight. That willingness isn't going to show up tonight. That desire is not going to show up tonight. They're not going to play with that playoff intensity that we all think they should have here over these final 20-some-odd games, 25 games to go in the regular season. With the tough schedule that's the rest of the way for this team, if they are going to pull this off, it is going to require an increase in the intensity and effort level. We'll see if they have it tonight. I'm not betting on it. Till I see it, I'm not betting on it.